Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. We are going to be kicking right along here, going on to, well, just me providing some more thoughts on the alignment guide, the 9 alignments overall, and how these alignments could end up interacting with each other. Bear in mind, like so much of what else I've talked here, not just on alignments, but everything in general, everything just depends on the context that's involved. Nothing happens in a vacuum, and nothing in these stories through these games that we play should be taken as some hard and fast rule that's set in stone and don't you dare ever violate it. Nah, it's loose, it should be relaxed, and always, storytellers, DMs, all of you out there that may be running these games, be prepared to make rulings and decisions on it. I mean, you are the arbitrator, you are the one that's enforcing and putting these rules into place, but also be willing to be flexible and work with your players. And players, same thing goes for you. Be willing to be flexible with things, especially as you play with each other's characters at the table, as well as you're playing and working with your various DMs out there. Be Even if something irks you a little bit, bring it up after gameplay or during a break in the gameplay, just so that way you're not stopping and slowing down the game itself just to make some contentious point over something that maybe doesn't quite matter that much. Definitely bring it up during a break or afterwards, or even before the next game if you feel like you need to just have a little bit more of a one-on-one to talk things over with somebody. Do that instead, because when it comes to alignments, except for a number of specific spells or situations, it's not that huge a deal. Just remember that characters rather, can fluctuate between alignments over the course of gameplay, over the course of multiple sessions, and there's nothing wrong with that. The only time there's ever really a problem, like again I've mentioned before, is when players are, saying, "Oh, I'm lawful good," but then they go off and do something absolutely self-servingly, dickishly evil, and then giggle to themselves about it, and then go on and talk about how pious and righteous their character is being. They're praying, they are giving alms to the poor, they're tending to the sick, to the wounded. That's when things are getting a little bit out of whack, a little bit too loose, and that's when DMs need to punish the players a little bit. You don't game without consequences. Well, I mean, if your table's already gaming without consequences and you're having fun, then you do you. But that said, within a story, within a realistic setting, where every actions have equal and opposite reactions or consequences for the things and decisions you do, that kind of needs to come into play a little bit. But with that said, let's actually start talking about the alignments and how they might be interacting with each other a little bit. And again, this is going to be very broad, relatively generic, and just give you some examples and ideas, and it will not be going down in great detail for every single of the 9 alignments. But let's stick with that example that I gave before, lawful good. Now, for the lawful good alignment, its exact and equal opposite is chaotic evil. Because on the law versus chaos axis, lawful good's over here, chaotic evil's over here. The two do not see eye to eye. Chaotic evil has no use for laws, has no use for any sort of order, concepts of, well, anything like that. And then on the good versus evil spectrum, well, lawful good is firmly planted in the good category. Generally kind, generally caring, giving. So there's somebody who looks at the law, sees how necessary it is willing to go and put themselves out there in a way to help enforce the law, and they look at the spirit of the law. More than that, they look at the kinder interpretations of the spirit of the law. They're willing to be forgiving, to grant clemency. By no means will they totally forgive someone. They need to see proper and just punishment, but they are going to be a more gentle hand in administering that, particularly if the person being punished is being genuinely repentant or acting genuinely repentant. They will be willing to work with them and even mitigate maybe the worst parts of a sentence and give them something lighter, or at least recommend to a judiciary official that they get a lighter punishment. Chaotic evil, on the other hand, well, it's evil. No use for any morals, traditions, laws, rules, any sort of governance, any sort of larger guiding, unifying principle, and they're evil on top of it. It's definitely an alignment that will accept in some of the worst, most self-destructive and everything else destructive kind of psychopaths. They are not people who think too far ahead. 3 months from now, that's a dream, a thought. That's not even a thought in their heads. What's happening right now in the moment is the thing happening in the moment. With that said, they do have survival instincts. Generally, they at least have an instinct of, if I'm alive, I can continue to inflict this level of destruction. And so, how would a lawful good and a chaotic evil player, well, a set of players, one lawful good, one chaotic evil, how would they come about to having their characters play together? Well, it wouldn't be easy. It'd be pretty damn destructive. But say the lawful good paladin has the chaotic evil character locked up with a couple of other criminals that they've caught. They're bringing them back to town for justice, or they've escaped from prison and need to be brought back for finishing out their sentences, as well as having additional penalties stacked on top of them for having broken out of prison, possibly even injuring guards along the way, or killing townsfolk on the way out, whatever. They need to finish out their sentences as well as be tried and sentenced for further additional crimes. Well, as they're on their way back into town, they realize, oh no, here's this orc horde or this contingent of drow coming up in the darkness, slinking their way in the shadows. They're going to come upon the town. They need to move fast. They get to town and they race away, but it's just a paladin and a small handful of guards. Well, anybody that knows anything about the drow or the orc horde, or even if it's an undead horde, they're not going to exactly be kind to whatever people they catch. The orcs, or at least if you're going with the classical Tolkien-esque interpretation of orcs, they are going to be butchering every single last person they come across, even other orcs. The undead are just going to devour, rip apart, tear, and destroy all the living things they find, and the drow are going to kill those who resist, well, most of those who resist, and then cart the rest away back down to the depths of the Underdark to toil away as slaves, never to have the sun look upon their skin again. It's not a pleasant situation for any of them. They're outnumbered, they're on the run, NPC guards are falling all around them, being dropped by arrows, magic, or being run down by orcs and goblins riding wargs and chasing them down. It's a situation where maybe the chaotic evil player, understanding that, yeah, they need to get rid of that paladin at some point and try to escape, but you know what? Right now, these things are more of an immediate threat. They are going to kill the more immediate threat. Not that they wouldn't try to kill the paladin later, but the circumstances are forcing two characters who would normally hate and try to kill each other, or, at least punish, inflict harm, or otherwise deal with one another. They have to overcome that, or at least look away from that for a moment and deal with the larger looming threat. depending on how the chaotic evil character comports themselves, if they're willing to just be duplicitous and lie a little bit to the paladin, maybe they can convince the paladin, hey, this person's fought hard, they helped me get back to town, they have agreed to help keep fighting to defend the town, maybe we can mitigate the sentence further. The chaotic evil character would be more than happy to take advantage of that. The question of whether or not they're able to maintain that ruse, well, that remains to be seen over the course of gameplay, and maybe the player is willing to take some additional voluntary penalties to, say, make self-enforced will saves to try to resist their more base urges. Say, they're serial killer, or they're just driven to just do awful, horrible things to anything, everyone, at any time. They're trying to keep it under wraps so that they don't immediately lose their head, and there's plenty of other things out there that they can kill and quench their bloodlust a little bit that are trying to kill them. So it's a win-win for the chaotic evil character, as well as the other players and the NPCs for this town or city, as it's all hands on deck. We either stop this threat or we're all dead. And it could even be characterized as if some of the players or even the DM feel like maybe the chaotic evil player is being just a little bit too helpful. The chaotic evil player can say, nah, if anybody's going to kill that goddamn paladin, it's going to be me. It's not going to be any of these worthless orc or undead bastards. No drow are going to be dragging that paladin screaming down into the lightless dark of the Underdark to suffer underneath the lashes of the drow. No, it's going to be the chaotic evil character that does that. They're going to be the ones that drag the paladin down into a basement and do awful things for them until they beg for death. That's how that can be characterized. If that's the reasoning going into the character's actions that the player's coming up with, you know what, for me, that's chaotic evil enough. They're dealing with an immediate threat that will end their lives. It's survival instinct kicking in that's forcing them to cooperate. And they may have some instances where they sneak off and murder an NPC or two, hang people from the rafters in their own homes for their families and loved ones to discover. Horrible, awful stuff. Nightmarish and scarring, but appropriate to chaotic evil. And they're not small acts of evil, but in the face of the entire town being destroyed, it's quenching the chaotic evil characters' base desires and natures. They're keeping themselves alive in the process too, which self-serving does get to be a bit more into the neutral evil side of things, but it's all in how you play it and how you sell it and how you're breaking down the reasoning, especially if somebody feels like you are getting a little bit too far away from chaotic evil and slipping more into neutral evil. It's much easier to explain how neutral evil or lawful evil might work together with good aligned players in that instance. It's because whereas a chaotic evil character will be thinking more about, not even thinking, it'll be just more likely to be just more of a basic survival instinct that I keep rattling and prattling on about. Neutral evil characters and lawful evil characters will see that long term it's in their best interests. Chaotic evil characters are going to have less complex and less sane or rational reasoning behind it, whereas a neutral evil character will see the benefits of working with the law when it suits them and then discarding it when it doesn't. They will see the benefits in working with a paladin, a lawful good paladin in particular. Same for a lawful evil character. They're definitely going to want to try to find a way to profit from this, come out on top, maybe even see some of their rivals die in the fighting so that way they can gather up and have more power and clout in the aftermath of the struggle. But they will absolutely be willing to work with paladins and other good aligned or neutrally aligned characters for their survival, and even go far enough to ensure mutual survival, because a lawful evil character will recognize, hey, if I go and save that baby, this is going to be great PR for me afterwards, even though I did kind of shank the mayor in the back and toss him over the side to the orcs. Nobody's going to remember that, and the mayor was an idiot that got us into this. I saved that baby, goddammit. That's what a lawful evil or even neutral evil character would be thinking. But again, it's all in how you sell it. True neutral can be a little bit tricky too, because true neutral is going to be looking at greater cosmic balances. They're going to be looking at larger systems that interact with each other, because it's not just that law and chaos need to be balanced out, good and evil need to be balanced out too, and so their actions overall are not going to be swinging consistently one way or the other at any point for law, chaos, good, and evil. They will do a little bit of everything typically, or if they're leaning heavily one way, it's because they see that one side is at a massive disadvantage and needs to be favored by the other. But it's also impacted by the scope of the true neutral character's level of awareness. The mortal mind, a human mind, is only able to conceive of so much typically. I mean, they're only able to perceive so much at any one time, might be a better way of thinking about it. As a true neutral druid, let's say, will be focused on balances of all aspects of nature. The helpful, thriving, life-filled bounty of the forest, of the natural landscape, is definitely a part of nature, but so are the harsh, deprived times of winter where so many things are dying off, or so many things are unable to produce the level of resources you might find in springtime and summer. Creatures die in nature. Creatures are born in nature. Both of these things are important, just like the changing of the seasons. A true neutral character will be looking to preserve systems like that, as well as they may recognize that there needs to be a balance between just the wild forces of nature as well as the more ordered, contained, and controlled settings of civilization. They may well see a place for that, but they also want nature to exist in balance with that. They're just two separate parts of a larger whole encompassing a very large system, but they're only able to act upon what they immediately see, what they immediately know about. They may use magic to try to gain information in a larger area so that they can make better informed decisions, but in comparison to what an omniscient, omnipotent being can perceive, like a true neutral god, their decisions are going to be based on the information they have, as well as a lack of information that would have otherwise changed their decision making. Whereas a true neutral deity who can perceive all things, particularly all things that have to do with their portfolio, their specific sphere of influence, that being is able to make a larger decision, also has the power to make larger actions happen as a whole, affecting things on a planetary or planar scale. They don't always do that because, again, it's true neutral. For a true neutral character to, well, a true neutral being like a deity or something equivalent to that spectrum, in order for them to act and affect any system in one way, it's going to be little nudges here and there, where versus, what massive direct actions they might take. It's just going to be little nudges and little pushes here and there. But again, a true neutral character can find it within themselves to work with any of the alignments depending on the context and situation at hand. Obviously, if we throw them into the same situation that paladin and chaotic evil character were dealing with earlier, with marauding drow showing up and attacking a town, the true neutral character may look at that and go, that town's going to be in trouble. Also, that town needs to be there because they're helping keep some of the wilder, more dangerous aspects of nature in check. I should preserve that. Or even they could just look at it as, if the drow destroy that, they're going to start tearing through all of my woods, destroying the precious balance of the ecosystem we've struck up here. They're going to ruin everything. That town needs my help, and they will be more likely to throw in and help out with that town. Now, the other thing is, while a true neutral character, a lawful good character, or a chaotic evil character will generally try to act in the broad scope of their specific alignments, they are still mortal creatures and are prone to mortal failings. They are going to make mistakes. They are going to give in to urges, instincts, or reflexes that may be typically otherwise contrary to their nature or to their outlook or to the things that they try to uphold, if they try to uphold anything, depending on the alignment. But that's just part of a character. Characters will make mistakes. Being a mortal person will mean making mistakes. What's important is how they deal with it in the aftermath. A lawful good character who accidentally strikes down an ally, they will seek penance. They will seek to repent and try to make up for that mistake. A chaotic evil character will not care. Hell, if they need to, they are going to put a child up in front of them to take all 5 of those arrows that might have otherwise hit them. A neutral evil character might even do that. It is certain, and I could even see lawful evil. Well, depending on how many people are watching, the lawful evil character may bravely step in the way. But again, context, situations at hand, that all just depends. It's all in the moment that needs to be decided, hence why things need to be a bit more flexible when it comes to alignment specifically. But with that, I think I've said mostly all that really needs to be said about alignments so far. If I can come up with anything else down the line, well, you can be sure that I will be making a video to talk about just that. And hell, if you have your own thoughts and ideas, go on down to the comments section below and tell me about that. Or if you have a great story about characters acting in or out of alignment, or whatever mix thereof that you have in hand, please share it. I love reading good stories. I love stories about things that have happened at the game table. But if you've been enjoying content here so far, well, why not consider liking the video? Or if you've been liking everything coming out so far, consider subscribing to the channel. We're always happy to have more people here. Even if you didn't like it, tell me why. I'd love to know about all of that. But with that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. You all have yourselves a good night.